there's so many ways you can read this. Like, you can read this article and make it sound like Brian Daboll's I don't know,
ogre. That was the word I used.
Ogre, or I don't know, a dictator in some capacity. But I think sometimes the best coaches are like, they expect excellence. Like, they expect you to have your guys prepared. If you're not, then you need to hear about it, especially if it's executed on game day, or it's not executed on game day and you expected it to be a certain way and it's not. I'm not apologizing for Brian Daboll. I like Brian Daboll as a head coach. I don't know him because I haven't been in a locker room with him as a head coach. But from what I see from the outside, even on game day, it feels like it's energetic, like it's full of the right kind of passion. Now, maybe that's negatively projected inside the room, but I can't speak to that. I don't know that.
Here's what's concerning. If the sources Pat Leonard has are current members of the Giant organization, which I assume that some of his sources are. That's the thing. Like, Pat
they
Leonard,
have to be.
It's not just Wink Martindale leaking out information to make Brian Daboll look bad.
Mm-hmm.
If it was something as simple as that, you'd almost take it and say, why do I even want to read this stuff? Here's just a bitter guy who got fired.
Right. It sounds like it's his analyst.
But if it's just those guys, I agree with you. I would think it's people inside the building. And my question would be, if it is people inside the building, if it's people currently on the Giant coaching staff, it's people currently in the Giant organization, why in the middle of January are they out to make Brian Daboll look bad? What's the point? Are they greasing the skids to get rid of him? Are they trying to put him on the hot seat? Are coaches just bitter by the treatment that Brian Daboll gives them? You try, and this is what I try to do. I look for the why. Why are people in this building out to backstab Brian Daboll? Because this article is a backstabbing of Daboll. Now, credit to Pat Leonard. He got the article. He has the sources. Good for him. I'm just saying, as I read it, I take out two things, like I said at the top, the juicy information and then also the why. Right. And the why is concerning. In fact, the why may be more concerning than the actual things Daboll's doing. Why are people in the building trying to make Brian Daboll look bad or grease the skids for his firing? Why?
It's a good question, because I don't know the why. I don't know these people.
I was just going to say, are we really sure anybody who contributed this article is still in the building, though? Like, you guys just keep talking about only Wink. And I know the way the article portrays it. I know Pat a little bit.
It's not just Wink, by the way.
Yeah, it could be McGahee.
It could be McGahee. It could be the offensive line coach.
Right. The Wilkins brothers.
There's multiple
so many people.
And by the way, you get to those guys, and there's layers down from there as well. So I don't know what to take of this other than as a report that feels, to answer your question, as a hit job on Brian Daboll that's not going to have any consequence until next year. Right? What happens next year is all that's going to matter, because Brian Daboll is in his third year. He's had a year of success and a year of failure. And whatever happens in next season, in 2024 season for Brian Daboll and the New York Giants, is going to be, I think, more determinant about his future than some article written on January 15th. Well, right? This almost feels like it's going to get lost in this, I don't know, the wind.
Of course it will be.
Like, this will only be an issue if someone complains publicly next year.
Well, or if they lose, get off to a really rough start, and it only goes downhill.
But again, it comes down to what happens next season.
But this report isn't something that, like, nobody knew until now. Clearly, everybody's still in the building, and Joe Schoen, if he was listening on the headset, knew. And then what did we see at 8:30 in the morning after? Joe Schoen in solidarity with Brian Daboll sitting down at a press conference. So in the end, if you're in the building still and you want to work for Daboll, you're still working for Daboll. Otherwise, you would have got the heck out of it.
I think here's one line that's very, very concerning, okay? According to Patty, writes, the story of the Giants' 2023 undoing isn't about a personal feud between Daboll and Martindale and the past. It's about bad football and a flawed process that still exists inside the Giants' walls. It's about an organization with enough problems that one Giants staffer recently advised an NFL assistant calling about a vacancy, quote, do not come here. Now, when I hear Giants staffer, I assume someone who is still on the Giants staff. If you're advising an NFL assistant, do not come here, that's a problem. Because they got a lot of openings right now. They're looking for an O-line coach. Mm-hmm. They're looking for a defensive coordinator.
No, they're not looking for an offensive
They're not looking. They already
they already hired one. That's right. They filled that one. They're looking
I guess you didn't get the message?
No. Perfect breadcrumb. Perfect breadcrumb.
What?
They hired an offensive line coach immediately, basically.
Right.
Got one immediately. And you're saying a staffer recently advised somebody, don't come here. Where do they seem to keep getting blocked or everything else? on the hiring of special teams coordinator right now. McGahee, who has been in the building for 1,000,000 years, gets fired, has 1,000,000 friends on the special team staff that weren't currently dismissed. I guarantee that is coming from the special teams room because everybody bowed at the feet of Thomas McGahee and didn't like him.
No, maybe. I don't know where it's coming from, but there are enough concerns that I wouldn't just throw it out as, it's just a bunch of disgruntled people trying to make the organization look bad. And here's where I disagree with you about this will be forgotten come September. The thing that I think Giant fans will remember, and will all remember.
If they win, Evan, it will be forgotten.
Well, yeah, if you win, everything's forgotten. That's not my point.
But that was my point.
Well, if you win, everything's forgotten, though. Of course. Just like in year one, nothing mattered.
I know.
But I'm saying where I don't think a story like this is forgotten is now we have the idea that Brian Daboll is a screamer at everybody. He's yelling at everybody. He's taking play calling away. He's bringing it back. Remember how big of a deal it was last September when we thought he took the play calling away from Mike Kafka? We're investigating videos. We're trying to figure it out. Now we believe anytime something bad happens, oh, yeah, he just took the play calling away again. Oh, yeah, he's screaming at this guy. Oh, yeah, that's why this guy left. Oh, yeah, that's why this guy doesn't want to come here. So it leads to more questions about him and his staff.
Isn't he allowed to figure this out, though?
I know.
Like, he's still a second-year head coach.
Brian Daboll's got you trained, Sean.
No,
I'll tell you now, man.
No. Yeah. I'm not saying that Brian Daboll is perfect.
But I'm actually, before you get there, Sean, I'm wondering, like, what you want us to take out of this.
What I want you to take out of it?
So,
you can take whatever you want
Pat Leonard. So you put this article out, and it presents him as a pain in the ass to work for.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of coaches that are a pain in the ass to work for. Trust me, Tom Coughlin was a pain in the ass to work for. And that's not only his coaching staff, but that was the entire organization. And so,
I mean, if our ratings dip, you think Evan's going to be a peach?
Right.
He'll be torture.
Right. So that didn't matter because they won. And it got the organization, even guys who didn't see eye to eye with Tom Coughlin, like me, buying into the things he was telling me because I knew he was right. Right? Teak, you can't fumble. Otherwise, you're not going to play, period. Coach, you're not right about that. You were so mean to me when you said that to me. God, you're so hard to work for. Are you kidding me? Like, what the hell are we talking about? Right? So just because someone's hard on you doesn't mean that they're not – don't have your best interest in mind. And so I don't want to say it because I've said it so often around the NFL – this feels like people are so soft. I'm serious. It feels like they can't take criticism. It feels like they don't understand that when someone's yelling and screaming, they're not necessarily yelling and screaming because they hate you. They're yelling and screaming because whatever you did was wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Or something you were supposed to be accountable for didn't get done. And so, yeah, they could take the passive, I need to teach my 5-year-old, anger management. But we're talking about the NFL. This is a results-based business. If you don't win enough, you get fired. I don't care how nice or kind or whatever you are, you get fired. And so I know what this is trying to do. I know what we're talking about here, but I just don't get it.
I will give you.
I don't want to be I stepped on my lawn guy, but come on, man.
I get what you're saying, by the way, and I will give you because you asked something at the
People
beginning.
are
You're like
crying. He yelled at us.
No.
He yells too much at us.
By
It's
the way,
chaos. Of course, it's
get
chaos.
off my lawn.
Get off my lawn. What did
Go
I
kiss ass.
What did I say?
I stepped on my lawn.
All right, whatever.
Well, I don't want people stepping on my lawn either. I want to give you an answer because you said something at the beginning. What do you want me to take out of it? First of all, I don't want anyone to take anything out of it. You take whatever you want out of it. But I want to give you, honestly, as just a football fan who's not a Giant fan, what I took out of it.
Right.
Because I agree with a lot of what you said in terms of, oh, you're sensitive. Oh, someone's yelling at you. You may be right. I mean, I don't know. I'm not in that room to know. But here's what I take out of it as a football fan. Brian Daboll is still an unknown. He is. He's been here for 2 years. We do not know if he's the long-term answer as the head coach of the Giants. We don't. We had a great early return, a great season as an early return, and then we had a major step back this season. We go into a pivotal year 3, and if you're being honest, you're not a hater, because I'm not a hater, and you're not, just towing the company line like Sean is. You don't know. And I think that's a fine thing that, I don't know what he is, okay? And I think that's the honest answer we'd all have. So what do I take out of this? I got concerns. It doesn't mean I'm burying him or I'm firing him or I think it's all accurate and he yells too much and he's a douche and he can't be a head coach in this league. I don't take that out of this. But what I take out of this is I have more concerns today than I did 2 hours ago. That's what I take out of it. I take out of it that he's coming off a bad year, we all know. They're going to have major changes on this coaching staff.
Yeah, but he's coming off a bad year, so of course there's going to be negativity. Of course there's going to be.
But there's more negativity based on a story like this where you got people in the building basically saying he's, screaming and yelling all the time.
But here's the problem. As soon as things go wrong with any endeavor, we're talking sports here, so it doesn't really matter, but let's say as soon as anything goes wrong, the first thing we want to do is go look for an excuse, right? Not for why, how to make things better, but we're just going to go look for an excuse for why things went wrong. And so it's easy to sit here and say, well, Daves was terrible with Mike Kafka. He was terrible with McGahee. He was terrible with, Bobby Johnson. And that's why those guys underperformed. Or maybe they underperformed because they sucked, right? Because that's ultimately what it was. Or maybe they were poorly coached. Because Thomas McGahee, when you have punt returners who let the, protectors hit the ball on the top of the head, a kickoff that's about to go out of bounds, and you touch it and step out of bounds as opposed to stepping out of bounds and then grabbing the football. These are like basic fundamentals of being a special teamer. And these guys don't know it. They literally don't know it. Because I was at the game and watched it happen in the Green Bay Packers game. And I can't tell you how pissed off I was because it's 101. It's not like advanced special teams. Oh, that was a smart play. Only a few people know to do that in that situation. No, it's 101 stuff. Thomas McGahee deserved to be fired because of how poorly the special teams performed. The offensive line, I don't care if it was backups. There were times where they looked lost. They don't know how to handle a game, like a TE game. They don't pass them off. They just kind of both take one guy and let the other guy hit the quarterback in his face and break his neck. This has happened in Miami with Daniel Jones. And so, right, the guys who are not here and who are probably talking poorly about Brian Daboll deserve not to be here. And so if you're going to take their complaints and use them as he's mean, sorry, I'll be mean then. Right? I want my coach to hold those people in those situations accountable. If not, then, again, stop being soft. Do your job or get out.
T, I completely agree with you. If this is coming from those that got fired, I'm with you. I don't want to hear from you. You deserve to lose your job. The Giants weren't good enough, and now you sound bitter.
But I don't know
why if it's coming from people in the building, that's concerning.
But why would you say that?
Why would who say that?
Why would you say something like that if you were still in the building?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking. I don't know.
Because trust me, it's 2023, 2024 now. You're going to get found out, right? Somebody's going to find out about it. Honestly, I think that's what happened with Wink. We talked about it and speculated a week ago. I honestly think that's what happened.
The only reason I think someone would say that if they're still in the building is because they want Brian Daboll to act differently.
Yeah.
And they think that leaking this out could cause
Brian Daboll and tell him that. Right? Go to him.
But would you be concerned if people in the building are leaking stories like this out? That doesn't concern you at all? That'd be my biggest concern.
I mean, look.
Why are people in the building out to get Brian Daboll?
Well, so when I hear of things like this, because it's not just the Giants, this happens everywhere. When I hear of things like this, I think those people are extraordinarily selfish because they're thinking about themselves. Like, how does this benefit me? This gives me some edge over some, I don't know, I don't even know what it is. It gives me an edge over some invisible circumstance, right? Because there's no tangible benefit to doing this if you're inside the building. If you're inside the building, go talk to Brian Daboll. Yeah. And if you don't know how to talk to your boss, that's your problem, right? So this doesn't make sense to me unless it's people who are no longer in the building and they're holding a grudge. And that to me, that's the only thing I can see. And again, I'm not here trying to defend Brian Daboll. He could be an ass. Who knows? Tom Coughlin was an ass. He won 2 championships, and he's revered and loved in the Giants organization now. It is what it is. Sometimes you have to be that way to get the change that is necessary for teams to be able to win.
We already have the proof that this story is a nothing burger, and this isn't me shilling for the Giants. Sorry, it is. Because guess what?
Well, it doesn't make sense to come out now. It just doesn't.
Well, forget that, Tiki. We're missing the whole overarching point that this article is trying to paint. How difficult it is to be around Brian Daboll and succeed in football. So forget the fact that they made the playoffs and he was coach of the year. This year, we bickered about what was right for the Giants. Tanking, losing. They're not going to win how many more games without him. They hit a point in the season where everybody could have took their bags, basically went home and stopped trying. And instead, what did the Giants do? Blew up everything I wanted in my face, they beat 2 playoff teams down the stretch, one who just beat the Cowboys, in games that those teams needed to win, the Eagles being the other last week, played their ass off with a third-string quarterback winning 3 straight. If Brian Daboll was that difficult to work with in what was already a lost year, the Giants players aren't fighting like hell and winning any of those games. So, yeah, he's probably a hard ass. Newsflash, when things aren't going well, bosses tend to be douchey. And I'm sure he was.
That doesn't prove anything, though.
But I think it does.
They're playing well down the stretch and the players not quitting on him?
Yeah, because players will quit.
Players will quit. If he's that difficult to deal with, you are going to tune out the head coach and do it. They did the opposite of that. They played their ass off for him. In fact, there was that report last week that McKinney wouldn't have even reconsidered signing back if Wink was gone. He can't wait to play for Daboll. So, look, if he's holding coaches accountable, we want coaches to be held accountable because the position stuff isn't going through that. This sounds like a lot of sour grapes from people who thought it wasn't their fault and didn't like getting the hard business.